I'm very, very happy that we were able to pass that budget agreement at 3 o'clock in the morning this past Friday. I felt very good when we were able to do that because it stopped the devastating sequester cuts. It gave equal spending to defense and the middle class, and it also set a tone for what we're going to do with riders. But this is only one step in the process. Our next step is passing an omnibus to prevent the government from shutting down on December 11th. There's no reason we can't get the omnibus completed in the next 6 weeks. We have very able committee chairs and ranking members, both in the House and in the Senate, to get this done. However, I was very disappointed this morning to hear Speaker Ryan throw a bouquet to the Freedom Caucus this morning by saying that he was going to use the omnibus to include some of these very disappointing poison pill riders. That isn't the term he used, but of course, there's a lot to be read into what he said. Democrats stand united against any shutdown riders that have no chance of being signed into law. We've been in touch with the White House this morning on more than one occasion. The President agrees with what we plan to do. But in addition to an omnibus, there's lots of other important legislation to deal with. We have a highway bill. We have something that's extremely important dealing with doing something about the XM Bank. And we need to avoid a government shutdown by passing funding bills without these partisan poison pills. We also need to reauthorize a number of important programs that the Republicans have allowed to lapse. Perkins Student Loan Program, XM Bank, Land and Water Conservation Fund. Today we sent a letter to Speaker Ryan and to Senator McConnell urging them to work with us to restore vital programs and deliver the robust funding our nation's highways need. There's no reason we cannot do all this in the next few weeks, but it's going to take effort from Republicans to work with us. I'm hopeful that they will take the offer that we've given them. Sir Durbin?
What a relief. An agreement. Boehner cleans out the barn. We avoid a shutdown. We avoid defaulting on our America's national debt. And what a time for celebration. And then came the vote. And 2 out of 3 Republicans voted against it. 2 out of 3 Republicans in the House and 2 out of 3 Republicans in the Senate voted no. They couldn't support this idea that Boehner's farewell gift would be some stability in terms of our agenda here in Washington. Now comes Senator McConnell saying, we want to bring up the appropriations bills. Just trust us. Everything's going to be just fine. I am ranking member of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee. A little bit of history. Back in 2010, we passed the Department of Defense appropriation bill, couldn't pass another appropriation bill, ended up with a CR for the rest of government. What if that happened again? A CR doesn't give you the $25 billion increase in non-defense spending. Could this be part of their agenda, part of their plan? And what kind of shutdown riders are we going to face? Let's be honest, there are things they want to do, like repeal Obamacare, go after Planned Parenthood, that the president would literally veto, putting us back into the soup without a resolution of this problem. It's time to put the cards on the table. It's time for Mr. McConnell, Senator McConnell, as well as Speaker Ryan, to really show us their riders. And Democrats should do the same. Let's put these out here and take a look at them. Let's have an honest negotiation of how we're going to end this appropriation process consistent with the spirit of the great John Boehner farewell.
Schumer?
Well, when Speaker Boehner announced his retirement, he made clear he wanted to clean out the barn, take difficult issues off the table. He made a decent start, but there are still a few bales of hay in that barn that need removing. The biggest and most pressing is passing an omnibus funding bill that fills in the blueprint of the budget agreement both parties worked to pass last week. And already, we're seeing Republicans threaten to insert policy riders that absolutely have no business in an appropriations bill. Republicans should be crystal clear. If they insist on inserting poison pill riders into the omnibus bill, they'll be dragging us into another government shutdown. Now, we know some in the party want just that, but we're going to do everything we can to avoid it. Democrats on both sides of the Capitol, both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue, are united on preventing poison pill riders from riding along in an omnibus. Now, Speaker Ryan today said that he expects to use the power of the purse to push riders. The power of the purse doesn't give the Republicans the right to jam through ideological riders that could never stand on their own. The power of the purse doesn't give Republicans the right to hold government hostage unless we repeal Dodd-Frank or defund Planned Parenthood. We're not going to let that happen. We're not. And that's plain and simple. And everyone knows that there are some who don't believe in this spending, as Dick mentioned, 2/3, who want to use the riders as a means to shut down the government. The power of the purse means simply that Democrats and Republicans, House and Senate, work together to produce a fair budget that strengthens our national and economic security. So the barn isn't clean yet. Nope. The only way Republicans can finish cleaning it is by working with Democrats, as they did in the past. We've set up a framework. It's a good framework, but we still have to get the job done. And remember, they're not required by law to meet the agreement. That's a budget agreement. We could pass a defense bill, and then they could say, well, we'll do a CR on the rest of it, violating the 50-50 deal. We need to negotiate an omnibus all at once and all together. And there are a few other items in that barn. The Ex-Im Bank, land and water conservation, Perkins loans programs, they've all expired because the Republicans have wasted time on show votes. So, it's time for the Republican leadership, House and Senate, to leave its hard right agenda at the door and work with Democrats to finish cleaning out the barn, and that starts with an omnibus bill free of poison pill riders.
Senator Murray.
Well, finally reaching a bipartisan budget deal was a very important step in the right direction. We avoided a Republican-driven crisis, making it possible to restore investments in health care, education, and jobs, and once again proving that Congress can get things done when we work together. But families across the country still look at this Republican Congress and see far too much gridlock and dysfunction and far too few results. In a divided government, bipartisan work shouldn't be the exception, it should be the rule. So now let's build on that bipartisan foundation we built with our budget deal. Let's keep the work going, since we still have a lot of work left to create jobs and help our middle class. First of all, now that we do have a budget deal, I'm hoping that Republicans don't decide to jump back into the arms of the Tea Party in the appropriations process. Democrats have made it very clear. We will not accept extreme political policy riders that hurt our women, workers, and families. And there's absolutely no reason for what should be a bipartisan effort to get off the track with any partisan games. This is a budget, not a Republican presidential debate. And it will be up to Republicans to push the Tea Party aside once again. So I'm hoping that that they work with us over the few weeks we have left in a bipartisan appropriations process to lead us to a bipartisan spending bill that works for our families and our economy. The Export-Import Bank has strong bipartisan support. We should get that done. We should be giving students more options to go to college and to make it affordable, not less. So let's get the Perkins loan program going again. The Land and Water Conservation Fund, the Transportation Bill, the list goes on. Democrats are ready to get to work. We are ready to get things done, and we urge Republican leaders to join us.
Yes.
I know that Speaker Ryan had some sort of mushy comments today about riders, but it's really difficult to read anything into them. But you have a long relationship with Senator McConnell. We've both been on the committee for a long time. Do you think he has a realistic expectation about riders, or do you think he's going to push it
Well, you heard what you were here a few minutes ago when he said that the appropriation process is a process where writers are part of the normal game. You heard him say that. Now, I don't think you have to read much into what Ryan said. I've got an exact quote here. Right, so we have a top deadline. It's Ryan. December 11th. We've not got a lot of time between now and then, so we're going to have to put together appropriations. But this is the legislative branch, and the power of the purse rests with the legislative branch, and we fully expect that we're going to exercise that power. I don't think we're reading much into that. Yes. Our fight against ISIS is ongoing. We've had special forces troops in Iraq for a long, long time, as everyone knows. The situation in Syria has been compounded as a result of Russia now being in there. And I am supportive of the President's policy in the Middle East. It's difficult. There's no golden coach who can throw all this and say everything's fine. But I think we're doing the best we can with a very difficult situation. Yeah.
If December 11th comes and there's a omnibus package in front of you that you don't like, has some of these riders that you don't like, are Democrats comfortable filibustering that bill if it means government shutdown?
I'm confident that if we move and the Republicans work with us to get a omnibus bill done, I think we can work out the poison riders that they've been talking about. I think that if they will work with us to get the 12 appropriation bills done, I think riders will all work out on its own.
Senator Reid, you've said.
But we bought into the system. We're happy with this budget. We're happy with an omnibus. It's up to the Republicans to work with us. We are not voting 2-1 to close the government and default on the debt. So the American public knows where the Republicans stand. All you have to do is look at one of these debates they have to know where the Republicans stand.
Would you let one of those bills go to the President's desk?
I'm not going to speculate. I don't know what you're talking about. Riders, in the appropriation bills they've done, as far as the committee goes, there's dozens of riders. They know they can't have dozens of riders.
Senator Reid, you've talked, of course, about the riders that have been controversial in the past that would cause a poison pill situation. We know what a lot of those are. On the Democratic side, the ones you do want, what riders are Democrats looking for that could be controversial on the other side? Are you going to have gun control riders on your side?
We're not looking for any riders.
Any at all?
No, we're not looking for riders.
Senator Reid, just a quick change of subject here. The refugee crisis out in Europe, particularly out in Germany, Austria, etc. Seeing what we're seeing out there right now, and your support for refugees coming over to all of your states into the major metropolitan areas, is there any concern right now as to what we're seeing out in Europe, perhaps happening out here in the United States soon?
Well, we all know that the country that's borne the brunt of this so far has been Greece. And I applaud Greece for doing everything they can. Those Greek leaders in those little small islands, the fishermen there in the small islands, Greeks, are going out saving lives every day. So, we got an ocean separating us from what's happening with Syrians moving into Europe. It's a totally different situation. The President has spoken. We should take some Syrian refugees. I support that. This is one of the historic breakdowns of government we've seen ever with what's going on in the Middle East and the people leaving to save their lives and their families' lives.
But no concern whatsoever as far as what's happening in those cities over in Europe right now. I mean, Merkel appears to be almost drowning.
You would have to be without conscience not to be concerned with what's going on in Europe. I'm concerned. One last question? Nope, good. Thanks, everybody.